Hi, this is Damien AtHope, and I am an axiological atheist, which can simply be understood as a value theory or a value science atheist. And I'm here today with a guest. Could you go ahead and tell us your name and a little bit about you?
Sure. I'm Emily Seaman. I am a proud atheist. I also do volunteer work for some atheist communities, and I am interested in learning about activism.
Right on. So we're going to be doing a video today, but we're also going to be doing a series of videos on basically atheist activist training. And so this is an outline for the video number 1. So the outline is going to be basically on 3 topics. It's going to be know you, know your motivations, and understanding others. And some of this stuff may seem like, an explanation that goes further than some would think, but really you have to understand when you go out, especially when you're doing atheist activism in the public, you're going to have people challenge you. You're going to need to be able to, manage what they're doing and how you're reacting. So know you. Clearly know your thinking and beliefs as you're going to be challenged. But don't just let them get info from you. Don't let them lead you around. Instead, say it in a way that you want. In other words, don't be forced by their questions. Because we should always hold the goal of getting out of what we answer what we want, which is in a sense providing a teaching opportunity. Or we want to share ideas striving to get back to asking them questions and from what we say. Because in a sense, you're only going to get to atheist activism on the street. You're only going to get like about 5 minutes in general. Someone's going to really talk to you. And so you want to make that, the most productive. So I always think that may, the actions, of my life be written deep with the poetry of my humanity. And so some people, they fight people, and some people, fight for people. And we're our best, really, when we strive to show thoughtful regard and not thoughtless indifference. And this is real important because when they come at us, a lot of times when I'm doing atheist activism, we generally have signs that say atheist and stuff. So the people that come and talk to us generally think that they know that what the truth is, and they're going to come and tell us, or that they're questioning and they need our help. But to me, either way, they both in a sense are the same. They both need our help. They both need a help understanding. And so it's our goal, to me, that we should be out there is to actually try to help and teach, and thus it really matters how our thinking is before they even talk to us. So do you have any thoughts or questions on that?
Sure. Now, what happens if you go to ask them a question and then they start going into a long rant about, well, I can't explain it, but when my grandpa was dying, my cousin told me for 3 days he would
right.
That kind of stuff. How would we react to that?
Well, so sometimes when they ask or make comment questions where they're basically run on and on and on and on and on, even when if I'm paying attention, sometimes I could lose what it is, and so I just go back to so could you go ahead and restate your beliefs? So sometimes we just refocus them because they will go on and on and on, and we could do it respectfully, say, well, because I need to understand first. And so often they'll say that too. They'll go like, well, I believe this and this and this and this, or I'm, part of this church. And I don't really care what church you're in. I don't care if you say you're Catholic, Protestant. That doesn't always tell me what they personally believe. And so I agree that they'll do these long stories, how I found faith. I don't need to listen to that nonsense. What I'm trying to, because no matter how they found it, they have a core of what they believe. No matter what church they're in, they have a core of what they believe. No matter what their pastor, because you could ask them exploratory questions too, like, do you believe 100% what the Catholic Church says? If they're going on and on and on. Do you believe 100% of what your pastor says? My family's always been Christian. Do you believe 100% what your family always says? Does your family 100% always agree with what they, is professed as the belief? So every member, right? Your whole family a Christian, every member totally 100% believes the same thing. Because to me, you're getting into the fact that there's generally people don't agree. Generally people have their own thing, really, because when it comes to faith, it's not like science where we can all look at it and go, oh, look, there's the sun, and all have a basic, understanding equally. When it comes to religion and faith, you could have people from the same church, the same family, the same faith next to each other and still not agree totally to the same things. Why? Because it's actually not a fact. It's just a feeling.
The same thing if they say that they believe the whole Bible or not. There's so many different versions.
Right. Exactly. So, and then the other thing next is know your motivations. And so we need to be clear in our goals in activism, to me, before we ever even go out there. And then when we're out there, we need to remember it. Because when people challenge us, it can be easy to get angry. And that's not going to be as productive for teaching. So to me, these goals are best accomplished, in goals of helping, if our thinking is that way. And so if we want to talk about a new way, we need to present a new way of thinking. And so we want to challenge and ask questions, not for the goals of, in a sense, winning or proving them wrong, but aiding them in being enlightened. And we want to aid them in new thinking. And so the goal, if it's winning for us, then teaching is going to take a back seat. Because we're going to try to one-upmanship, we're going to try to get them, which I know a lot of when Christians are taught to go out and proselytize, they're asked these gotcha questions and stuff. I don't feel like for us as atheists, that's important. At least not for me. It's not important to try to get them to. My point is to start making them think. I believe in reason so much and believe in people's ability to reason that I know that once that's inspired, atheism is the result. We don't teach atheism like they always go, oh, you're out here teaching atheism. Actually, I'm not. I'm just teaching reason. I know that atheism is a result. That when you start to realize, actually, you can't defend a God. There's no facts. There's no reason behind it to keep believing as you're believing. Then it automatically, as you stop believing, the act of stop believing is atheism. It's not like a philosophy or a certain thing. I mean, I have a philosophy, Axiology, but Axiology, in a sense, is not even in itself, in a sense, a philosophy of atheism, other than it's a value judging. It's a value judging facts. It's a value judging, which is an assessment, in a sense, of what's being offered, assessment of what the claim is, assessment of the goodness. When they say something is good, what do they mean by that? What is good to them? Because when they say they have a loving, good God, but yet their God in the Bible is the one that murdered the whole earth, how do you consider that equaling good? And so we should hold fast, in a sense, to making sure that our effectiveness is in the teaching first, and then letting our ego take the back seat. Because sometimes, I want to prove someone wrong. They'll say something just absolutely ridiculous. And my first thought is to just push them down and go like, you can't possibly believe it. It's like dumbfounding. Sometimes they'll say something like, I saw a rainbow once and that's how I knew God was real. You're like, what? It just doesn't even make sense. And so, but if our goal is to be caring and teaching, it changes our effectiveness. And to me, that what we should be inspiring in people is not like, you need to know God's false and atheism is true, but better to get them and ourselves to hold to, in a sense, a belief etiquette, a way that we believe things. And you can inspire because it's also less, in a sense, threatening to tell someone, I'm not saying you can't believe. I'm just asking you, why don't you have a belief etiquette? Why don't you have a way that you believe things? In a sense, because, think of it this way. If faith works and they believe in magic, why not believe in a different religion? Why particularly theirs? Why particularly the branch of the religion or faith that they're in? It's like you want to get them thinking. And to me, if you get a true belief etiquette, it should have, in a sense, three main things. It should be a demanding of reasoned belief acquisitions. In other words, anything that comes in, you evaluate. If people still just say things, you don't just believe everything if they're just because you're told it. I mean, that's generally how religions are believed. But you question, like, why would you just do that? Why would you say that I'm just the faith of my family? You were just lucky enough to be born into this special family that knew the truth and that they've always known the truth. I mean, is that the same for the Muslims and the Christians and the Hindus? They just all, because it's about 73% of the world's people that are religious are born into a majority of that religion for the country. So, or the culture. So it's more of a culture or a geographic thing that people believe that which is around them than inherently demonstrating any kind of truth. So that we should always think about for ourselves too. Do we just let things come in and believe them without thinking? So reason, belief, acquisitions. And then we also need good belief maintenance. And that means that the beliefs that we already have, we need to be open to tests. Science does this all the time. They think a thing is true, like they thought the earth was round perfectly. But then when they get more data, they realize, well, it's a little bit oblong or pear-shaped or has a little bit of lumps on it. It's not perfectly round, even though it can look that way. The fact that there's mountains and you know, valleys and stuff. But it's not that round in a sense. The first thought of that was wrong totally. It certainly was better than flat. Thinking the earth was flat was more in error than thinking the world was perfectly round. And so to me, it's this updating. It's this willingness, even in ourselves. You know, we should have this willingness. And that demonstration of willingness, in a sense, to have good belief maintenance aids others in realizing the rationality and the reasonableness of doing that. It's not a threat to be reasonable. It shouldn't be. And so to me, it's this, you know, good belief maintenance means that we also show them that they can, in a sense, not have to challenge everything, but why leave nothing unchallenged? In other words, like sometimes I feel like atheists, it's like all or nothing. We want them to lose every single belief right this moment or else they're not reasonable in any way. And I don't think that we should be doing that. We should be showing them a reasoned person challenges everything, tests everything, rethinks about everything, says, you know, updates it to the new and most accurate facts. And so then to me, once you've done that, to me, then you have an honest belief relinquishment. And which is that at that point, when you realize something is an error, something can be done better, that we don't just keep going, well, I've always done it this way, so I'm just going to keep doing it no matter what. No, we go, wow, we need to do it a little bit different. And then it's being honest to go that, you know what, the thing we had before, if it doesn't work, then we just stop believing it. We need to update to the newest facts. And to me, this doesn't just apply to you know, God beliefs. This should apply to all areas of our life. We should be, in a sense, honest and say when something is wrong and something doesn't work anymore, then we just let it go. And to me, if we can instill this kind of a belief etiquette, this process of how we believe things, the end result is atheism. Because if you have these kind of ways of assessing what you believe, you don't believe nonsense. And if you did by accident, because you reevaluate, you know, the maintenance of what you believe and then letting things go, relinquishing them when you find them wanting, I don't see how you can not end up with lack of magical beliefs, because magic isn't real. But I think that we also need to understand that how we present ourselves, we need to be thoughtful in what we say, because words once released have power. And the reason this is because that they're not just a method in a sense of transforming facts and ideas, but also feelings. And in fact, if someone could say, I love you, and it sounds nice, or they can say, I love you. And then it doesn't matter the words, it's the tone and expression that the person realized that that wasn't true. And so to me, when we say like, you know, I'm trying to help you, that doesn't sound like help. And so to me, that's very important. I mean, it's easy online because then you can't always hear someone's tone. But when you're in the public and you're talking to someone on the street, every way that you express, hold yourself, everything is being read as part of the message. And so to me, we need to remember that Words are both builders and destructors. They can build, in a sense, castles to protect and dungeons to torment just by what we're doing. And for some people, we'll be, in a sense, the only atheist they've ever met, or the only atheist they've talked to if they've seen one or whatever. And so I want to be a good emissary, not just for atheism, but for reason. And I feel like that it's our opportunity to truly help.
Well, I think it's a really good idea that you mentioned approach. If I come up to you and I say, everything you've ever believed is wrong, and kind of like the opposite protester, everything is wrong, I'm attacking you. And a lot of people, they do feel really emotional about their religion or their belief system or whatever. So I like that your technique is you are asking them questions. You're teaching them, but they're figuring the answers out using their own words. You're just giving them a little push in the right directions, a little push to think about things they've never thought before.
Right, and that's a lot less threatening. And it's also harder for them to say, like if you say, well, I'm an atheist and I do this and I do this and I do this, it's easier for it's the us and them. It's easier for them to go, well, that's what you do. I do this over here. I use faith. I use this. Instead of saying, oh, you use faith? Okay. Is that a reasonable method? How often do you use faith? How effective is faith in your life? Oh, it's always effective. Really? So then you must use it to raise your kids, for your stocks, how you get to work, how you choose a job, and then they may say, oh, I do it everywhere. And then say, oh, well, how accurate is it? Do you ever assess its accuracy? Because some people say, oh, it's 100% accurate. Oh, really? Do you ever assess it actually? Has it ever failed? How would you know that it has? Just like a lot of things people go, well, God's perfect. He always answers the prayers. Really? Because you're saying that every time that you've asked for something, you've got exactly what you asked for in the exact way? Well, not always, because God has different ways. Also, sometimes it fails. Sometimes it doesn't happen the way you want.
Mysterious ways.
But like I said, the point is, for me, is always to get them thinking. It's the goal is not, like I said, winning. So it's not about getting the aha, you're wrong. It's the aha, how do you know you're right? Because they're generally professing, oh, this 100% belief, so I'm eroding that belief, and I'm eroding the belief in faith and the belief in just belief. That even beliefs, that's why I try to focus on, in a sense, of belief etiquette, getting them to think about how they believe, why they believe, when you should not believe, how you let beliefs go, getting them to really analyze belief. And I know some atheists, like they'll say, I have no beliefs. That itself is a belief, first off. Beliefs are an action of just accepting something. So if you say that you accept things, you believe them. The question to me is always not, do I believe? Is it rational? Is it reasonable? Does it have evidence? Is it justified? Is it accurate to assessment of something I could demonstrate, something that I could show? And also the problem some people get is that they think that belief and faith is the same thing. No, belief is the action. Faith is your justification. You say, I believe because I have faith. And you help the believers understand this. Faith is what they're calling evidence, in a sense. But it's not facts, it's just feelings. But they're offering it as if it is a fact. Well, it is a fact that you're feeling a feeling, but it's not a fact that the feeling always relates to the accuracy of the world. So to me, that's why it's important. And that goes to the other point of really understanding others. And so, people will generally, when they come at us, on the street for atheist activism, will be defensive. So it's our goal to already know that that's the case. Because I've seen atheists before. That I've done a lot of activism for 10 years, and with different people. And some people do it great, but some people, they're already like mad, like how dare that person come up and talk to me like that? They're mostly going to do that. You need to already expect that they're going to be defensive, or they're going to, challenge you, and they're going to try to hold you to some unreasonable standard. They're going to be a jerk. it's our job to manage that, not let them be that. One of to me, the great ways of doing that is asking them questions. How do you think you know God? Okay, first, could you just tell me what your beliefs are? Just totally because who doesn't want to talk about themselves? Well, I know I like talking about myself, but some people don't. But in general, they do like to, because if they're coming up to challenge you, they do want it. They think they're going to tell you. And so to me, it just turn them. Just take all that energy they have and just flip it so that it becomes more positive. And our striving should be in this is friendly and thoughtful rather than being defensive back. Because, I mean, we already know we're out there. And so to me, it goes back to the goal that, likely that their goal is going to be about challenging us, proving us wrong, they think, giving us the truth of the God or whatever. Or trying to win, there's some war of ideas. But we should be striving to show them, in a sense, that we're trying to share ideas of good reason, of good thinking. And our goal is teaching. I remember one time I had this argument online where this guy started by telling me to fuck off and all this shit. And I told him, why do you feel that I should fuck off? I asked him a question. He didn't. Well, because, you go around telling your thing. Why is that a wrong thing? And I just sit there and just grinded him with these thoughtful questions. And eventually he goes, I realize I need to apologize. I shouldn't have said that to you. I shouldn't have done that. I see that you just want to understand. And you know what? I can respect that. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that's a good thing. So I had to block him because I hate people that fucking talk to me like that. But my goal was that even to show people that even someone that does that, even someone who starts with fuck you, if you can stay calm, if you can be reasonable, sometimes you can still get them to admit they're wrong. Instead of us trying to say you are wrong, we just use exploratory questions that start analyzing what they're professing to believe, like you said, using their own words. Then they start to realize, wow, it's like it mirrors them. You put a mirror up and they get to see how they're talking, see how they're behaving, and then they go, yeah, maybe it's not so great. Maybe it's not reasonable. And so
I like that you also use their own words, because you may think that they're talking about someone else, because for one person, God might be everywhere in the eyes of a child, and I've heard of people say that they worship aliens. So it's good to, before you go and ask questions about, oh, well, I wasn't talking about that. So I like that you do ask all those questions first, too.
Right, exactly. My goal is for others is self-mastery. And so I don't feel a need to try to change other people distinctly or to force them to think different. Rather, I wish to create a space where they can see things different if they want. Speaking of aliens, I had this guy who kept saying about aliens. And then I said, why do you think that there's aliens? I mean, and he goes, well, all the universe and the planets, there has to be something out there. I go, well, it's different to say it's possible that there's life out there than to say they've landed on this planet and built the pyramids. Do you see how that's not the same thing? Science would admit that it's possible that there could be alien life out there is not the same as saying, I know they've landed here, mated with humans, they built the human race, and created all the monuments that we see. That is a completely different thing. Those are not the same beliefs. So in other words, someone could believe there's aliens out there, but not believe they've landed. Someone could believe there's aliens out there and they landed and that they didn't mate with humans. Someone could believe that the aliens out there, that they've landed, they mated with humans, but did not build the pyramids. But to believe that they are out there, they've landed, mated with humans, and built the pyramids are multiple beliefs that you have to, in a sense, justify. And I said, and I can tell you, starting from the bottom up, they didn't build the pyramids. Those are built by humans. We know how, we know why, we know when. I said, and we know in our DNA they didn't mate with humans, so this thought that somehow humans were created, because he believes in the Anunnaki, that does not, from Babylon, that is not true. We know when humans were made. We know how. We know that there was other, in a sense, humanoids like the Neanderthals that we mated with, and the Decentivans. So to me, the multiple reasons his claims are not true. And that's what, to me, instead of just, which I agree with you, there's no aliens to me. And until you can prove to me there's aliens, I'm not saying that there couldn't be possibly out there. I know for sure they ain't on this earth. They're not touching down. They're not grabbing people unless you can show me more proof. But to me, what the problem is, they take one statement of science that's like out, somewhere out in the universe, and then they think it has to do with here, and then they just start building all these unreasonable beliefs. And so to me, that's what I'm saying, is that instead of just saying, which I would say, that I don't believe in aliens, so go ahead and start there. But instead of doing that, explain why their beliefs particularly are not reasonable. Or like I said, show them that they could believe they're out there. They could even believe that they come to this planet once in a while, but that doesn't mean they built the pyramids. It's just that every single belief or claim you're making, you need a justification. And so what the problem is, people that they'll have like one thing, and then they'll make all these other beliefs and think that none of them have to be justified. No. All of them have to be justified.
Right. This is true, therefore this.
Exactly.
So you roll.
Right, because that's not good belief etiquette. That's not focusing on every single one of those is a belief. The belief they built the pyramids is a belief. The belief that they come out and mated with humans is a belief that needs to be supported. Both those can be debunked. So for sure they didn't build the pyramids, and for sure they did not mate with humans. So those are not beliefs that are acceptable. Totally unacceptable. Science could prove those as absolute false. So you're already starting with ones that he believed that I can show him. Instead of showing him probably that all of them are false, I can break them one by one, and then a person, if they're reasonable, which this person still wants to believe anyways, which I told them is absolutely not reasonable. but even then, I said, fine, if you feel that way, then I just don't want to hear about it, because I've already explained it to you. So there's nothing to keep talking about this particularly. I've showed you why it's unreasonable. I've proved to you and demonstrated. So I just leave it with the fact that I've already done it, and I know that it takes compassion, though, for us to realize that some people just don't get things as fast. Some people don't get things at all. But our point is to me, is to actually focus on showing them how to think, not exactly what to think. And that how the errors in thinking desire or should, require to change this error, because you should want lack of error in what you believe. And so I think also it's important, because you can't just use facts. You can't just throw facts at people and they're like, oh my gosh, you don't believe that? Why I can't believe it, you don't believe that. You need to try to help them reason through them. It's like if a child goes and does math, they don't just give them the numbers and then the child goes home and comes back and learns everything. You have to slowly teach them and work with them. And I think that when it comes to science, or when it comes to reason, it's not any different. We can't just say, well, this is reasonable, the end. We need to help people why it's reasonable, why you should, what would happen if good reason is used. So it's a real helping thing. And this is important too, because people's denial likes consistency. In other words, it's easy to be in denial if things are always the same. That's why religions just repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat over and over and over again. And so that's the same thing with when people give you ideas, don't let them just repeat and repeat and repeat over again.
Oh, I wanted to make a comment on something you said a few minutes ago about how maybe you found multiple errors in something somebody was saying. Let's just say 6 for conversation's point. I like that you said don't try to change all of it at one time. It reminds me of the story you told me about how you became atheist. And I think when you started, I don't think you realized all of it at the same time. But
No.
I remember you had told me, well, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. And then you kept finding one or two things at a time. And then finally that made you question everything. So I think if you can get them to challenge, if you can get them to question one or two things like that, it'll make them think, well, I wonder what else was a lie. I wonder, but if you go in and say everything is wrong, I mean that, and that's a big thing to do at once. That's a lot, like a build up to it kind of thing. You know,
Exactly.
You don't want to just peel the Band-Aid off or whatever, because I don't think they're going to really believe it. Like you said, they may only give 5 minutes.
Right, and that's a good point about my own personal thing is that I didn't become an atheist until 35, and I had gone to college, and I actually had at that point never really that I knew of met an atheist, never had been challenged about atheism, and my family had a very loose opinion of science and the fact that they thought that by somewhere around the year 2000 the world was going to end, Jesus was going to come back. So it really, arguments over science were like, it didn't matter. Which I know to some people is odd, but we didn't really talk about evolution because it didn't matter. No matter if there was evolution, it was God. I mean, it's just a stupid answer. There was no thinking. So I didn't really do much thinking about religion. I thought about the religion in a closed mindset. It's like I was allowed to think a lot as long as I only thought in the box. And so then when I went to college and I learned a little bit of science and I found out that, that women in a sense, or the X chromosome is the default for humans, and that Y has to change the X. There's actually androgens that come in, and then testosterone, and actually the first one is defeminizing androgens, and then masculizing androgens, and then testosterone. So you actually have to stop the process of making a female to end up with a male. That blew my mind. What? How could the Bible be totally true? I mean, so like you said, I didn't totally think that God was false at that point. I didn't think afterlife was false. I didn't even think that really the Bible was totally false. But I started to question, like, wait a minute. Why, if Adam and Eve's story is true, I started reasoning for the first time. If that story is true, then why would it be that we have to stop female to make a male? I started like having a problem with that. That doesn't seem reasonable. If a God had really designed man first, why would it work the backwards when in the sense process, of birth and then, creation to a male? That just, it sounded so bizarre to me. And then taking classes on religion also helped me to start seeing things, patterns and things. And it was really about just being honest. I really, for the first time, tried to be honest. But like you said, I didn't really know any atheists. I didn't know any atheist community. That's why I think it's so important to go out and do activism and to be informed, because a lot of people truly are not informed. And I try to have compassion because I remember when I first started, I wasn't informed. And another thing, too, is people don't get is just because I stopped believing in religion and thinking the Bible was false, which I did eventually at 35, didn't mean that I 100% now believed everything science said, believed everything other atheists said. In fact, it was the exact opposite. I realized I don't know how to think. I don't know what is appropriate to believe. I realized that I couldn't trust myself. And I certainly couldn't trust people I thought I could trust, my family and all these other people I respected, because they're all lying to me. So then to come to atheists, hearing them say stuff that I didn't know, so I didn't feel comfortable just trusting them. And so yeah, it was a process. At first, when I became an atheist, I thought spiritual was an important thing. I thought that afterlife was probably possible, just not a God. I thought that maybe we had this soul thing or sort of a spirit not like a ghost, not really like the Bible, but more like a ghost or something. But I went and tested those ideas. I went into Savannah and I went to a haunted, mansion, and I did everything that they said don't do. Don't offend them. I tried to offend them, and nothing happened. And it made me feel like, this really is all nonsense. And so, but it was a slow process. So I try to be compassionate to people too, knowing that just because they get the stuff, doesn't mean they're automatically going to have reasoned thinking. I mean, most people, like I did, had a whole lifetime of unreasonable thinking. And it's hard for someone to go, yeah, I know, I lived my whole life as a waste. And I had someone one time say that to me. Are you saying that my whole life was a waste? And I'm like, well, I'm saying mine was. My reason process was a waste from the time that I was practically born. And I had been taught, so it wasn't my fault in a sense. I had been told by people I trusted. And that's what a lot of times religion is an accepting. And then we're taught patterns of denial. Oh, well, they don't know, so we don't listen. They're not they don't have the word. They don't have the Holy Spirit. They don't speak from God. They don't. All this, and what does that mean? What does it mean to speak from God? What does it mean to have the Holy Spirit? Does everyone have the Holy Spirit the same? If so, then why are so many religions different? Why are so many Christians different? Why is there 40, more thousand denominations? If there's one book and one God and one Jesus, why is everybody not agreeing? It must be that either nobody has the Holy Spirit, or the Holy Spirit, if it was real, must like confusion. And so to me, it's that really starting to test things. And so that's why, to me, you need to do with other people and to understand. Other people, in a sense, have fixed forms of thinking. They have patterns, boom, boom, boom. And so it's our job not to, in a sense, just say, oh, it's all wrong. But to realize that, to aid them in seeing that it's a fixed pattern of thinking. That they think, I guess like this one Christian just wrote me recently, this long, half an hour or 45 or an hour long message. I mean, absolutely ridiculous nonsense. And then saying, oh, he could have believed the world and everything, but he got the truth in in Jesus. It's absolute nonsense. But it's that fixed thing, and he thinks he's being open-minded, and he even said, oh, you'll probably laugh. Well, no, I actually feel sad for you, because you have this extremely closed-minded thinking while thinking you're being open-minded. And so we need to see that that's how it's this inconsistency. So the reason why I think that's important too is that if we go out there and think, well, everyone should think reasonable, and everyone should understand critical thinking, and everyone should believe science, and everyone should, that once they're told the truth will just immediately then we're going to be very disappointed. Because that's not, especially in a 5-minute conversation or whatever, you're really not going to have somebody just go, wow. And I have had some people, say, wow, I'm questioning my thinking. I've had some people say, I'm going to let a couple beliefs go and now realize they don't work. But they don't go, everything is gone. I'm totally seeing the light, I mean, it would be nice if it was that easy. But to me, it's also better if we truly get them to reason. Because if I tell you a fact, you may later forget it. But if I teach you how to reason, then you can go look for facts yourself. When you're offered things and beliefs, you can start testing them yourself. That is way more of an inoculation to nonsense than just teaching them facts. We would have to do facts all the time, more and more facts, and then learn more and more facts. But if we teach them how to reason, then whatever facts are presented, they're going to assess them, hopefully, a lot more reasonably.
I want to make a little comment about that, too, for anyone that may watch this. So Damien knows a lot of facts. He knows a lot of stuff about religion. He's been studying it for 10 years, and I could reference a couple things, but I won't know exactly what it says, or I don't know half as much, right? When we first started talking about Damiens Activism, I was very intimidated. As you can see, I do not have the same kind of speaking voice. I do not have all this history just wired into my brain. But Damien said, no, that's fine. Layman's terms are fine. It's good because I could get people to logic, to reason. And it'll be their own words. I don't have to know anything, really. I just have to get them to think. And it gave me confidence, because I stumble over my words and stuff like that. But, I mean, if you really get people to think, I don't need to know all the big words. So that might be something that maybe other people are kind of afraid to get out and do that too, because we don't all, have all that knowledge.
Right. And like you said, it's taken me a lot of years, and I study all the time, and I've done anthropology and archaeology of religion and history and
I have not.
And I also study philosophy stuff. But the important is not all that, because I've already seen, like I said, the most effective is not like if I can rattle off 10,000 facts, or if I can tell people they need to use logic. It's better to demonstrate just how to reason, how to think, how to assess beliefs, understand that things that come in, you don't just accept them. To start, and like you said, I think it's a lot better anyways, because it allows this, in a sense, technique to be used with more people. Because you don't have to, most people like to say that even if they wanted to learn as much as I do, it would take so long, where you have to have a job, you have to, have family, it's not feasible. Especially if most people, in a sense, say they do activism once a month. How important is it for you to spend your entire life for this little tiny bit of time? So I think that it's more effective, like I said, to really focus on not having to know all the facts. But knowing just how to reason and helping people think. Because, like I said, if we believe in their ability to reason, which I do believe people have, then when we can inspire that, they do the work. They realize, wow, my beliefs really don't make sense, and that anyways is so much more powerful, because if all it took was science having facts, then people would already not believe. But there's people that are actually scientists and still believe. How? Well, it's because they're not truly. They're compartmentalizing. They're not truly reasoning their beliefs. They're saying this one category is science. I do it in this way. This other thing is faith. I do it this way. It's for us to help them show that all beliefs, all ideas should be put through a filter. They shouldn't just be accepted. And even if we're going to accept, okay, so you accept God. Like I've heard someone tell me before, well, you can't deny the fact that the Big Bang, and thus that means there had to be a creator. And I tell them, okay, let's assume for a second that that's true. Let's assume that there had to be a creator. Show me which one's the right one from that. From that belief that there had to be a creator, how do you possibly get to Jesus is the only one? Muhammad was the teacher of Allah. How do you get to Krishna for Hinduism? How possibly can you decide from just looking at nature that your specific God is correct? How can you differentiate, since you believe in spirits? What if that was just the great spirits? How do you know that all of you are wrong? It's the Native Americans that are correct. That's the great spirit. How do you know that none of you are right? Spirits are real, but it's a spirit and nobody really understands. How can you differentiate? You start to get people to think, to reason. Because when they really start reasoning, they realize, well, I guess I can't, explain it. That's just where faith comes in. Okay, but why would you add faith? And what benefit? Couldn't I, with faith, believe anything? Couldn't I, with faith, say that it was a pink unicorn that did it? Well, because we know there's not unicorns. Well, we would say we know there's not gods. We know there's not ghosts. Or we could say all the above. Ghosts, vampires, werewolves are true because I have faith. Faith is not a process of understanding. It's simply an emotional acceptance. I accept something emotionally to be the case. And so to me, it's aiding people, especially because what they are trying to do often is hold on to ideas. And so if, like you said, I mentioned, if you try to attack all the ideas, like I do it a lot where I say, okay, if we accept for argument that that belief is true, then wouldn't that make blah, 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 blah? Because, instead of saying, oh, nope, unreasonable, crazy, lunatic, or something, or no one would believe that, or, that has, science has already disproved that a long time ago. Like this one girl goes, I know that the flat earth is true. And I said, why? I said, don't we look up at everything else in the sky and it's round? Everything. Show me anything in the sky that's flat and we can start talking. Because gravity itself, actually, when things get large enough, they all start to become round. Once things are a certain size, it's just a fact of the spinning, the rotation, it just starts happening. So even if we wanted a pyramid sun to be, it wouldn't be. And so why would we think it reasonable that where we're at, just on, if you didn't know anything, and that's why to me the Greeks already knew the earth was round, or believed that it was, just by looking at the sky and by paying attention to the rotation and movement of the stars. It shouldn't be that, but people don't reason. And so because it's something that they want to believe, and it's like I watch a show where they try to test the flat Earth, and the tests showed they were wrong, that it probably was a round Earth, or at least curved to some amount, and they still were like, well, we're gonna have to get more sensitive. What more sensitive? You said this would be it. Now just think. If they got a reading that said they were right, would they have said that, well, we need to test it and make sure it's more sensitive? Or would they go, see, proof? And it's explaining that to people. It's showing them that things should be universal. If you're going to say that this is true, you can't cherry pick it. You should have the same mentality. In other words, if they saw a positive or a negative result, if they're going to say it's true, then they should say it's true whether it's positive or negative. Otherwise, they're just lying to themselves. They're not being intellectually honest. And if they're going to say everything needs to be tested with better, more sensitive stuff, that should be true whether it's positive or negative. That's what science would do. They wouldn't go, well, if it's positive, then we accept it. And if it's negative, well, we're not going to accept it. That you see that there's an intellectual dishonesty. And to me, that's when people start having a belief etiquette, they start realizing, yeah, you really can't do that and be reasonable. And so to me, therefore, what we're doing is we're helping people alter skewed thinking. In other words, to me, atheist activism is not going out there and like preaching the good word of atheism. It's in a sense, it's aiding people in this way of thinking. And if you talk to most people in the sense that are atheists, a lot of them didn't just, wake up on one day and go, I think I'll try out atheism. That's generally not what you hear. Generally, what they've done is they've thought, they've reasoned, whether they intentionally did it or not. Because it's not like I intentionally, went to college going, I hope to stop believing. I went to college to be a drug and alcohol counselor for, a Christian one. And then as I was challenged, I started going, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can be a Christian. Not the counselor part. I don't know if I can keep being a Christian. I don't know if I can keep believing in any kind of God or anything. And so it's the process. And so to me, this is something that I have a thing I call the hammer of truth, which is 3 types of philosophy, which basically can be broken down in just 3 types of questions. So ontology questions, or the thingness of a thing, should be the first thing you ask, like, what are you talking about? And so some people do what's called street epistemology, which is the next thing I do. Epistemology questions versus how do you know that? But I like to focus first distinctly on what are you talking about? Like you said, I want to use their ideas to help them see their ideas aren't reasonable. Well, I have a God, so I don't ask the questions on how do you know that. I say, what do you mean by God? Which is interesting too, because when I first started asking that question, I thought there would be some kind of a standard. Like if you asked 10 people, you'd hear a general same explanation of what God is. And I found out, wow, that's not true. You hear all kinds of stuff. Everything from, I don't know, which you thought they did because they said they believe, but yet they don't know, which is actually what's called somethingism, where they go, I don't know, but I feel there's something, which is called somethingism.
There's something out there.
Yeah, something out there. There's higher power, something, which is, I don't know how you can just believe in something. I mean, without having any definition, then you're just open to the belief is what I would say. You don't even have a belief. You're like open to something being believed. And then I've heard people say a specific God, and I've heard people that say they have a specific God, but their own version, and they'll even tell you, yeah, I don't totally agree with my family, or I don't totally agree with my religion, or I don't totally agree with what the Bible says, or this. And you're like, wow, then how do you get to that belief? Or they'll say something like, well, it's just good, orderly direction. I just feel something in my conscious and myself, and that's how I know. And like, even if you felt something, how would you know that it's a God? I mean, how do you know it's external of you? And just like when I think it's funny when people are like, well, I saw something I didn't understand in the sky, and thus it's space aliens. Like, really? The best you could say when that's why they should just stick with the term unidentified flying object. I saw something I think was flying, and it is unidentified. That's about it what you know. I saw something I think I saw that was doing something I think I know that was doing. You don't know its providence. You don't know what it is. It's all speculation. But people, they just jump in logic. They just take one little thing and then just fly like Superman. And just towards the belief without anything supporting it. And yet, what's funny is they'll challenge sometimes my process of reason. I'm like, wow, it's amazing how you're so into challenging my logic, but things that are clearly illogical, you have no challenge for at all. Talking snake in the Bible, donkeys that talk, and Muhammad flies, to the on a horse. I mean, you don't ever question this? Spirit beings you don't see, people that have, could talk in tongues and all this, and somehow it's real language. I mean, it's amazing. But then after we've asked them, what are you talking about? The ontology question, or the thingness of the thing, a clear description. Then to me, we epistemology questions. How do you know that? So now we know what you're talking about. Now we want to know, how do you know that? And this is important too, because people will often say they know A, B, C, D, whatever. But when you start asking them how they know, and they'll say, like, well, I know because of the Bible. Well, how do you know the Bible is accurate? How many things in the Bible could be inaccurate and you still believe it? Is 100% true? Does everyone believe it's 100% true? Getting them to think, how do you know that it's reasonable? How do you know you're being reasonable? And to me, and then it's axiological questions, value judging questions. How is that justified? How is that reasonable? Or how is that logical? How is that accurate? How is that good? How is that valuable? These are kind of axiological questions where you're assessing what is being offered. So first they claim they offer something, then you ask how do they know that. Then when they offer what they think they know, then you're assessing its quality. If I say, well, I know that I had a headache one time and I drank a whole cap of bleach, headache was gone. Thus I know that every time I get a headache I should drink bleach. Why would you think that? Why would you think that it cured that? So it's that type of a quality question you're asking. It's really important, because sometimes people will offer things that they say they know, and they say they know how, and then you ask them why is that reasonable to say that's how? And that's when you start to hear that even they can't really justify that it's reasonable. And so to me, this...
Right now they're picking up my recycling outside. It'll be just a second.
All
Sorry
right.
about that.
No problem.
So that's annoying.
Right on.
Fast.
That's good. So then this to me involves perceptions. What's going on in people's thinking? And so to me, it reminds me of, like, I've had people before, well, how is you an atheist, defend, that you even know that you exist? How do you defend rationality? How do you defend? And to me, it's good for us to understand that, in a sense, that, like, I've heard the statement for, that, I think, therefore I am. Well, there's something that happens actually prior to thinking. So the first thing is an activating event occurs, an experience. And then because of that, it elicits these senses and feelings in us. And then from that, in a sense, naive thoughts happen. Like we instantly, in a sense, have a thought that we realize it's happened. We haven't thought about what's happening, but just that it happened, in a sense. And then from that, it makes this emotional, reaction and response to what's happened. It makes us think more because we have to address it. It's like the fight or flight, in a sense. We respond to it. And to me, it's at that point that it involves actually our emotional intelligence, our ability to navigate that. Oh, I feel these feelings, and then what do I want to do about it? And to me, this also addresses when we have things like emotional hijacking, where it takes over and the fight or flight is the one that runs everything, and we actually are not that thinking. We're more reacting. And to me, this is the point we should be trying to avoid, is being taken over. Done correctly, what we should be doing is navigating our feelings. In a sense, navigating these things and then critically thinking about them, which I call right thinking. But it doesn't always mean that that's what happens. So in a sense, if people don't know, emotional intelligence is the capacity to be aware, to control, and express one's emotions, and to handle interpersonal relationships judiciously, like, a process way of analyzing, and then also empathetically. That we, and empathy, in a sense, is the feeling others' feelings and responding to them, understanding what's going on, and with ourselves. And an emotional hijacking, also called an amygdala hijacking, describes emotional responses from people which are, in a sense, immediate and overwhelming. In a sense, kind of like PTSD. It comes on, or when we feel anger. We don't have to try to feel angry. Often it just happens. And it's this measured response, in a sense, or out of control response to a stimulus that happens that triggers these threat feelings. And this is important to talk about for activism, because generally, like when we challenge people's ideas, we see them as ideas. They see them as part of who they are. Like, people don't say, I believe in Christianity. They say, I am a Christian. They won't say that I believe in a God, whatever. They'll say, this is my God. So that a lot of times the language is already telling you that they are totally emotionally enmeshed or connected or feel like they're one with these things. So when you, in a sense, attack these ideas, what you're doing is almost to them, feeling-wise, emotional-wise, is like you're attacking their family. You're trying to take, and I've even had someone before, you're trying to take away my God. I'm like, no, I'm trying to add reason to your life.
I know also you've said when people approach you, they think, they're gonna get you and stuff like that. And a lot of times they'll be perfectly calm, and then all of a sudden they get so emotional. Now, with that, should you continue to ask questions when they get super emotional, or should we only do that when they're calm?
Well, yeah. I feel like that we obviously can't control people in a sense, but yeah, knowing their emotional state and what's going on, because right, some people it happens different. You'll be doing activism, some people will come rushing at you, all emotional, and then as they talk more, they calm down, and they're actually easier to reason with. I don't think we do very well trying to reason with a very emotional person. So then I agree with you. Some people will start reasonable because they feel safe and good. They're going to come and tell you the good word. They're going to come and teach you about their God. If you hear about their God, you're gonna get touched by the Holy Spirit or whatever nonsense. So But as you start, like I do, questioning them, and they start feeling not safe anymore, they may react. In fact, I had a college professor come to me and feeling all sure of herself, and I started asking her questions, and she acted ridiculous. I mean, I now am better, but at the time didn't totally at the first know what to do. It's like, I expected this adult with a college degree that teaches college to respond in a way that would have been better than a person on the street. But I've seen people that are irrational act better than that. And so, I mean, but now, because I'm aware that that happens and I'm ready for that, and I see, I didn't know what to do. So when they come at you at first and they're rough, just say, let's hold on a second. Could I please hear what you believe? Just explain it to me. Well, no, but just calmly, because I'm be sympathetic. I am trying to listen. So just go ahead and calm down and just tell me, or, please help me understand first. I just want to hear so you calm them down that way. And the person, now what I would have done is when I saw her getting frustrated and then losing it, I would say, could you please explain what's going on? Could you please explain what you're feeling? I would like to know. I would like to understand. And so I realized that because I was taken off guard. I mean, but now I realize that that's going to happen. That's why I wanted to have this, class kind of a thing and explain that this stuff will happen, and then how to react to it, to not feel like, wow, there's nothing we can say. No, there is. And to me, this goes to actually helping people, in a sense, build one truth on top of another, this right thinking. And so when people are, in a sense, an emotional state, and this is why it's important, I think, for this to understand, there's different levels of thinking. So the most base level and it's hardest to teach logic or reason is the feeling and emotional level, which was what that woman eventually got to. You have to bring them out of that before you can actually get them to start thinking. If you try to address when they're in that, they're hijacked. They're emotionally hijacked. You can't reason. You're not going to get them to see the logic of something because they're not thinking logical. And then to me, then above that is non-emotional thinking, where it's just thinking, but it's not reasoned. It's just that they're thinking. This is a little bit easier to open someone up towards logic and reason, but it's still going to be hard to teach them and not very effective. So you want to try to raise them up to an even higher level of reasoned thinking, where they're starting to have reasons for things. They're starting to kind of try to justify things. They want things to kind of make sense. And you'll see people use this where even Christian philosophers, they'll make these large arguments and stuff, but when you really start poking holes in them, it's not that. So just having reason for something is not the same as it logically being consistent. Like they'll say, if a God created the universe, and if a God was loving, and the universe is loving, and there's love in the world, thus there's a God. You're like, whoa.
Yeah.
That's a lot of ifs, first off. What is a God are you talking about? What does that mean? Start digging into that. And so, which to me, you're trying to make them logic, trying to make them to follow a standard, trying to get them, because it's easy to bring someone up from reason. Like I said, it's even harder when that person was being emotional. So how you, in a sense, you build walls and blocks of truth. You build on top of each other. But if they're feeling, start asking them questions. It's the most effective thing and it doesn't have to be particularly on questions about their belief about atheism. It could be something else. They say, God touched my life. And oh, yeah, really? Does that happen often? Oh, does that what happened to your family? Speaking of which, how did you come to believe at the beginning? Get him to think about something else. Get him. So to me, it's redirecting them from this feeling type of thinking to more, a thinking type of thinking, like where it's non, emotional, is its basis. But then slowly start trying to ask questions, getting them to reason about what they just said. They're thinking, oh, really? So does that happen with your family? Does your whole family believe all the same? You still haven't said that God wasn't real, but you're starting to make them test what they're saying. Oh, so your whole church, everyone believes the exact same thing. So what exactly are they all believing the same? Is that the same as all other Christians? Because you said you're a Christian. And what does that mean to you? Starting to dig into that. You're a Hindu? So what does that mean to you? Do you believe in the Bhagavad Gita or just the Vedas? Well, I know that, once again, some people may not know how to ask questions like that. But once you've asked them to explain to you what they're talking about, they should say, I believe this and this and that. And you could just say holy books if you didn't know which holy book. Like
it sounds like kind of a recipe, what is God? What is your God? What is, fill in the blank, whatever they're believing. Next.
Right.
Next.
Right, exactly.
It's just a recipe. It's like a sentence structure, subject, verb,
Right, exactly. And when you do it that way, when what happens is we're demonstrating belief etiquette, how to properly assess beliefs before we accept them, how to test belief after we've already accepted them, and how to know when we should let go of things that we should no longer accept. So yes, it's a process. And when we practice our own thinking that way and helping other people think that way, they hear it. Without them even knowing it. And the point is, when they start to see that, well, these aren't unrational questions. These aren't. And also, to me, sometimes if you say like God's not real and here's why, and people challenge him in that way, it's more threatening. It's not as threatening to say, well, shouldn't we all have, good process of belief? I mean, they're not going to go, well, absolutely not. We should totally not have good processes of thinking. So I think that it's easier to get them to agree with you that it is a good thing. That it is, and it's not, in a sense, unsafe. And I've told people before, too, if you have truth, then why would you be afraid to test the truth? If you have what is accurate, I don't understand why you would be so threatened by me asking, why you believe it's accurate. I mean,
like in a lot of religions, I mean, even doubting, that's a sin. That's as bad of a sin as anything else. You're not even supposed to question.
Well, and to me, I would say to them, what does it mean by not doubting? Because sometimes there's religions also that claim a test of faith is a good thing, that you're going to be tested, and so that that offering a good conclusion from the test is part of the requirement. To me, I would always try to redirect them to reason, because it's easy.
Yeah, I like that.
Thanks. So to me, they are going to be feeling threatened. They are going to think that it's wrong to doubt. And to me, I would just always try to aid them in thinking, including thinking about saying they shouldn't doubt or anything. Like you said, that's what I think is the most important when you understand what I'm trying to teach is it doesn't matter what they answer. It doesn't matter what you know. It's a process I want you to understand. It's a process of how to do thinking. So I'm a rationalist. I believe that we should be rational. And to me, it's someone said to me before that they're a skeptic as their main thing. It's not that I disvalue skepticism. I see it as a tool in the toolbox. But I don't know which tool to take out of the toolbox until I have reason. Because then I know when things apply. Like if I just say skepticism all the time, I may be skeptical of science, which I would call science denialism. I may be skeptical the earth is round, skeptical, of the truth that humans exist. I mean, if reason is not championed to me, then you don't know which tool to use out of the toolbox. It's like somebody, buying you this humongous set to build your car and not giving you a manual for your car, and you having no knowledge of how to be, a mechanic. Well, all those tools in the world are not going to do that much if you don't know how to use them. So I think it is important to have skepticism, absolutely. And we should have all kinds of tools. But to me, the first one and most important tool to me is reason. If we don't understand reason, and if we don't understand the process of reason for logic, we're not going to be able to use tools even if we laid them at your feet and presented you with all of them. And so to me, that's the same thing that we're inspiring in them. And I also think that reason is extremely powerful at aiding us in, removing, flawed thinking. And it doesn't take 10 years, and tons of books to get it.
Yeah, just learn the process, just learn the formula and learn how to use the tools instead of, oh, what am I supposed to do with this, man?
Exactly. And so to me, like I said, also, it's understanding them for this video particularly, that we understand that they're going to be at different thinking states. And so when we're out in the street, we need to pay attention. Are they talking fast? Are they talking clear-headed? Are they talking calm, like you said? Are they being super irrational? And then to realize that it's not like we have to just go, okay, we can't talk to them. Sometimes that may be the case. But what we can do is realize if they're in a lower state of thinking, like emotions, we can move them up to just, maybe non-emotional thinking. And then from non-emotional thinking to reason thinking. And then from reason thinking, trying to get it to logic where things are contradictory and, have to make sense and have justifications. And to me,
it's like the security alerts is like green and
right,
yellow is attention.
Right, but exactly. But instead of just a security alert in the sense that, aha, there's a person at red, I have to just move away. Maybe it help them get to orange or, whatever, yellow, instead of red. Maybe, you can't get them to green, but maybe you can get them off of red. And to me, you've done them a serious service by aiding them in doing that. And so, but it really, to me, like I said, the goal is not atheism, like we're pushing it like it's some sort of a, philosophy or belief. Rather, like I said, we want to inspire their mind to reason. We want them to thrive on that which is logical. Doing that, you will end up with atheism. You will end up just like I did. If you're truly honest about your thinking, you'll realize, I don't know why I think about the afterlife is real. Why would I believe in ghosts? Why would I believe that aliens built the pyramids? I mean, there's a whole bunch of things start following once you start reasoning. You're like, yeah, I really can't justify. Even if I would like that to be true, I can't justify that it is true. And you just start being honest with yourself in the way that you understand what it is to believe. It goes away. And so to me, we're really trying to teach them, like you said, this process. It's this process of logical thinking, which is using reason in a sense consistently. So reason thinking uses reason, but logic thinking in a sense uses it consistently. Boom, 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 boom. Things have to follow this boom, boom, boom pattern. And so you realize you can't go A, B, F, which is what they're doing. They're saying, I heard that, like I heard one person goes, oh, I know that science can't be trusted because I read a Forbes magazine that said that that the idea of scientific proof is a myth. And I said, yeah, but do you understand what science is? Science to me is a relationship with the evidence. And thus they'll say, from a preponderance of the evidence, this is the most likely conclusion. They don't say, aha, we've proved this emphatically, because that's more philosophy type of analyzing the thoughts. What they do is a relationship to the evidence. This evidence shows, boom, this evidence we've concluded the most likely thing is this. So to me, it's a misunderstanding or a misinterpretation in a sense of what science is doing. Science is not trying to do philosophy. So they're not going to say truth values and all kinds of stuff like that, because that's not what they're focusing on. They're focusing on, here's the demonstrable evidence, and this is what is the most likely outcome to conclude from that demonstrated evidence. And so that's like trying to say, well, because you test a criminal's, blood, DNA, whatever, and it's only 99.9999% true, well, we can't believe it because it's not 100%. They haven't proven it. Well, if that was the standard, we couldn't use DNA in courts at all, because that's not how it actually is applied. But to say the opposite, that there's no way we can know that person is more than likely the killer because of the blood, matching, would also be irrational. And I think that also, even in philosophy, there's this misunderstanding of like certainty. Like they'll say, you can't be certain. Well, philosophy doesn't do like percentages. It doesn't go, I'm 100% sure. What it does is it has things like epistemic certainty and psychological certainty. Psychological certainty could, in a sense, be a percentage. But in philosophy, that's not considered to have any value. That's like your opinion. When you're psychologically certain of something, you could be psychologically certain of the falsehood. You could be psychologically certain and it be accurate, but it's just your opinion. So that's not even evaluated. So that's why I think it's funny when people are like, well, if you're not 100% sure, then you can't say something. Well, that's not how philosophy works. Philosophy doesn't care about that type of certainty. That is an opinion certainty, which like sometimes people could have a reason to think something, like say a scientist. They demonstrate, something is true in a sense because of the preponderance of evidence, but they're still not certain. Well, that's because what they're not being certain of is not the evidence certainty. It's their feelings, their opinion, their psychological certainty. But psychological certainty really shouldn't matter because that's just your opinion about it. What you should really care is how much evidence do you have, which is called epistemic certainty. That's the certainty that matters. That's the one that, in a sense, science does and a true philosopher will do. How much can you prove what you claim? And then that kind of certainty is the one that's valued, not my opinion. Because I could have 1%. Epistemic. Epistemics, okay. Yeah, so there's just two kinds, main kinds in philosophy. One is psychological certainty that has percentages, 1 to 50 or 100. But that doesn't even matter. That's like, you can just throw that in the garbage. Because as far as a real philosopher is concerned, it doesn't have any value. That's just your opinion. Because what you really care is how much evidence do you have? How much valid and reliable reason and evidence or epistemic certainty do you have? So to me, that's real important because I hear a lot of times people talk about certainty as if it's just one kind. And then they'll say, well, philosophy can't be certain. But I feel like they're being certain of that statement, which is always funny when people say things that contradict themselves. They'll say, well, I know that no one can know anything, but you know that, right? Okay, so you know that, supposedly. Are you certain about that knowledge, that no one knows anything? But that would then contradict itself. You are
it's
now
like one of those never say never kind of things.
Right. So, but to me, that gets into like what a lot of religious people try to do is word games. I don't really care about fighting word games. I don't always tell people you're using psychological certainty or epistemic certainty. I feel like that can in a sense be a kind of a thing that can confuse the argument. I mean, sometimes it's necessary. But I had this one friend that me and him would go do activism, and he's like a philosopher. He would always go, I can't even talk to this person. They don't understand philosophy. And I'm like, yeah, but that's your limitation, not theirs. You should be able to talk to people and not have to use the same terms and the same words and use, like you said, plain, speaking. I try often to be, even though I understand a lot of things, I try to be more plain because my goal is not for me to show off how smart I am or how much I know or how long I've learned, but rather in an honest, caring way, how can I reason with this person? And which is why I think that you're doing a great job, because it doesn't matter that you know all this stuff. Are you honest? Do you really want to help people? Do you care about them having better reason? Then that's all you need to me.
Another thing is, so the steps, when you're doing the steps, I mean, they're not going to know that we've talked about, all the different words, all the different steps, all the epistemology or whatever. I don't even know how to say it. So I don't think it's important to necessarily say those words to the people when we do activism. We just, if they keep a mental note of it, that's fine. But like the ultimate goal, know what you want, know what your purpose is, but ultimate goal is to help them. So we don't have to explain that kind of stuff.
Right, yeah, right, I agree. You shouldn't have to. I was just saying that we need to understand that when people say certainty, there's not one kind of certainty. And that
No, I know. I just wanted to make sure that it's like, oh, we don't have to know all that stuff. Yeah.
No, you don't have to. And like I said, and like I said, I'm always of the opinion you should be able to almost accept what they're saying, not know anything, and still be able to help them see that they can reason what they're saying better. I know things. I know God 100%. Wow. I would ask them, without knowing anything, right? I would ask them, when did that happen? Was that the moment that you started without knowledge? Like they'll say, I know God 100%. I go, wow, was that after reading the whole Bible or before? Oh, I've known God 100% my whole life. Really? What age? Well, I was like, I don't know, 4 or 5. 4 or 5, you knew the God concept 100%? Did it ever change? Did ever sometime it went to 90? Or you're asking exploratory questions, which doesn't require me to know anything. You're just getting them to think. And would you accept if a Muslim came up and said they knew Allah, from 4 years old 100% and it never wavered once? Would you consider that reasoned? If they said that Krishna was the God, of Hinduism, and that they had known that from childhood 100%, would you think that had been reasoned? So to me, a lot of times it's just showing people that what they're claiming, is it really a reasoned way to claim something?
And if they say that it's never fluctuated, because I know even when I was trying to believe, sometimes I would believe a little bit harder, even though it was never very much, but I don't think it would be completely honest if they said it's never fluctuated at all, and that would be a good way to get them to admit some doubt or anything else.
Right, because the truth is, it generally not. I mean, in most things in our life, it's going to be a roller coaster, even if things that we know. We can learn things, we could hear something, we can forget. Because we're not like, processing machines. We hear ideas and they may sound good at the time, and then we forget. Like, I don't know about you, but if I haven't watched a movie in 10 years and I watch it again, I'm like, wow, I forgot half of this movie.
Yeah.
So we like to think we have this sort of a perfect understanding and thinking when we don't. We're extremely flawed. And so it's aiding them. I agree with you. It's aiding them in seeing that they can't possibly really believe that they have an unflawed thinking at all times, in all ways, throughout time. And one way to me too that you can do it in that kind of sense is tell people, are you saying that you thought the same at 4 as you do it at 10 and as at 20 and as at 30? And do you think that's the same way you're going to think at 40 and at 50 and 60 and 70 and 80? Do you really believe it's going to be that kind of consistency? And to like I said, I don't think that we have to worry about trying to make them stop believing things. What we need to worry about is make them start thinking, period. Make them reason. Because like I said, that does the work for you. If you have to spoon feed them every single, math question or something in a sense, it's going to take a long time. And even then, like there's people that my wife learned French, but she didn't use it. She almost knows no French now. So just the fact, even if you were taught every single little thing, if you don't get the process of thinking, then it still doesn't really matter. So I still think that even if you did know a lot, it's still better to understand the reason and how to reason than learning 10, 50,000 facts.
Right. That may come in handy, you know?
Oh, well,
yeah,
obviously,
that may come in handy, and you may never use, you know.
Right, I'm pro facts, so I mean, you can learn more, and you can learn more how to think deeper, and if you want to read books on philosophy and stuff, great. But I don't think that you should feel like you're limited if you don't do that at all. Because even if you learned all that stuff, it's still reason which helps you navigate all that stuff. So it still goes back to this, that to me, reason is my only master. That's the one thing, no matter the facts, no matter the what I want to believe, that needs to be, the main thing. And so to me, that's the same thing we're trying to help them. Let reason be your master. Not your beliefs, not your faith, not your God, but reason. So, anyways, I think that's pretty good for this video. I appreciate your time. You want to say anything else?
No, just thank you for doing this with me. I look forward to doing the activism very soon, and I like doing it. Yeah, thank you.
Right on. Okay.
How's Satan?
Bye.